In this video, we are going to break down the Craig Jones vs. Phil Rowe match at Pit Submission Series 2. And then we're going to talk about the reason why the Pit is simply the best stage for grappling that we've seen yet. Now, if you're not familiar with the Pit Submission Series, it's hosted by Karate Combat, which is a very interesting striking organization that is trying to bring back this kind of the 80s blood sport type vibe to it, with celebrities and guest performances and just overall a lot of weird stuff going on at these events. And now they're starting to dabble a little bit into the grappling as well with the Pit Submission Series. They were able to get everyone's second favorite grappler in the world, Craig Jones, to their event to compete against a UFC fighter in Phil Rowe. Now, looking at this match on paper, Phil Rowe has no chance. Craig Jones has been an elite grappler for a long time now. He's still in his prime, and he has the ability to make elite grapplers look bad. Phil Rowe, no disrespect to him, but as of this recording, he is a mid-tier MMA fighter in the UFC. And another added bonus for Craig taking this match is the fact that because he is many levels higher than his opponent in grappling, he's looking to have some sort of highlight submission reel that's going to go viral on social media.
By the way, I know you've been thinking about this for a while, how to use the pit walls, anything that can make jiu-jitsu a little more dynamic in the pit.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna find out. I don't want to, because we're gonna drop this early. I don't want to throw the secrets away.
Yeah, don't give it away. Okay, I got you.
The pit wall, yeah. I mean, we're going for some highlight reel shit either way. And in my pursuit of that, maybe I get highlight reel.
So at the start of the match, we see a very light feeling out process with both guys. Craig looking for a single leg, but doesn't really do much with it, kind of lets it go. We see Craig go 2-on-1 on Phil's left arm, trying to get that Russian tie going. But he's also doing the things that the average grappler thinks they should be doing, right? If someone gets a Russian tie on you, you're going to want to try to break the grips to get out of it. So Phil Rowe uses his right hand to break Craig's left hand grip. Craig pushes him up against the wall, and then Phil goes for an underhook on his left side, which is not a wrong response. Most people try to fight for the underhook when they're grappling. But because they're up against the pit wall, Craig is able to jump for a flying triangle and pull the head down for added leverage, and he's able to get the tap very quickly. He got the highlight finish that he wanted in just over a minute of the match. This is everything that Craig wanted. So if we see the event replay, we see that Craig initially posts his hand to the pit wall. Craig first throws his right leg over to the back of Phil's back, and this is going to cause Phil to naturally react and try to hold himself up with his right arm. Craig uses that to his advantage, knowing where his right arm is going to be, and then he throws his left leg up to clear Phil's right arm while it's posting, and that allows him to lock up the triangle.
I'm going to grab the back of the armpit here and place my knee on top. The reason we place the knee on top, it means they can't take their hand off the ground, and it gives us more time to fold through for the triangle.
And because they are up against the pit wall, Craig doesn't fall to the floor immediately. He actually stays on the pit wall while Phil is holding him up. That allows him to actually lock up the triangle easier because it's a gradual fall to the ground. That gives Craig plenty of time to make the adjustments that he needs and to get the tap. And the breakdown itself is actually pretty simple. It's basically a flying triangle, but he had the assistance of the pit wall. And now I think that this is going to wake a lot of people up to the potential of the pit being used in high-profile matches. In order to find out why the pit is the best stage for grappling, we need to look at other jiu-jitsu events and why the other stages are not very good. The most popular type of stage we get is something that you would see from ADCC, which is just a regular flat surface. Now, the flat surface might seem like the most quote-unquote pure type of jiu-jitsu, but in reality, there are just too many moments where people go out of bounds and people need to restart, and that changes so much about jiu-jitsu. When I was watching Joseph Chen versus Oliver Taza, at the European ADCC trials, the ref had to stop the match 4 times to get them back into the center of the mat, and it took a total of 70 seconds over 4 restarts for them to get back at the action, which is a tremendous amount of time for an athlete not only to recover while they're walking back to the center, but also to think about what they're going to do next. A lot of jiu-jitsu comes down to decision making, and when you're really tired, it's a known fact that you're going to make worse decisions as you get tired. Now, ADCC finals, they tried to eliminate this by clearing all of the mats and having one finals match at a time. It seems like a great concept. It's just too much mat space. Not only is there too much mat space, people in the finals will still find a way to get towards the edge of the mat, and the ref will still have to jump in, stop their position, and then restart them in the middle of the mat. So it seems like it doesn't even matter how much mat space you give them. When you have 2 high-level athletes who are going for wrestling takedowns on each other, you're probably going to run out of mat space eventually. Now let's look at the cage. And this is basically telling people like, hey, we understand that people are going out of bounds too often. We don't want people to stop the matches. Let's put them in a cage like we do in MMA so people won't run out of space. It sounds good in concept, but when you put it into practice, you get a lot of people who end up wrestling onto the cage. And fence grappling is boring. I mean, nobody likes it when 2 people are just clinched up in MMA up against the fence. And it's the same thing in Jiu-Jitsu, where people are not happy about watching 2 grapplers being stuck up against the wall. It's a completely different style of grappling at that point. A lot more different techniques, a lot of things you can do, and a lot of things that you can't do when you're up against the wall. And overall, I don't think it changes grappling for the better. Yes, we have seen people use the cage in interesting ways in grappling. There's a lot more boring moments in these grappling matches than there are exciting ones. Now let's look at the worst possible stage that anyone could have ever created for a grappling match, and that is the elevated stage. I absolutely hate the elevated stage. It has no positive benefits to have an elevated stage. It's basically a flat surface, but way worse. Now we can finally talk about the pit and why I love the pit so much. In the Pit Submission series, there's been 5 grappling matches so far. After watching all 5 matches, I can tell you that the ref did not interrupt a single time during these matches. That means during the entire duration of the match, both athletes' cardio were tested. I think the best example of this is when we saw Wagner Rocha versus Luke Griffith. Luke, who is this young stud who is way bigger than Wagner Rocha, and I believe a lot of people thought that he was the very big, heavy favorite in this match. I mean, a really young, athletic, super technical guy from the New Wave gym versus a 40-year-old Wagner Rocha. Just go at it with pure jiu-jitsu, and Wagner Rocha actually came up on top because he had more cardio in his gas tank. And so he was able to basically tire out Luke throughout the match. And towards the end of it, he was able to take him down, get him in bad positions, and eventually win the match. And in this match, we were able to see the wall used a little bit. I mean, Wagner at one point did post his leg up to avoid being pressed against the wall and was able to get out of the way. And for the most part, people were just kind of avoiding trying to be put up against the wall. We saw another match between Dan Manisau versus Max, and Max was able to use the wall as if it was like an extension of the floor. I wouldn't say that it was the most groundbreaking thing I've ever seen, but it basically did allow for the action to continue in a more natural way than what we would see when people use the cage. In the Miao versus Ricky Simone's fight, I don't think the pit wall was good or bad for Ricky Simone while he was being leg entangled. But to me, it kind of looked like the match was just kind of going the way that it was going to go. And I don't think the obstruction really hurt or helped anyone in that situation. If anything, at one point it looked like if the wall wasn't there, Ricky looked like he probably would have fell over to the floor. And I think in that position, Joao Miyao probably would have a even bigger advantage if they did fall to the floor. So if anything, Ricky probably was being helped by the pit wall, but because the action was able to continue and because Joao was able to keep all the grips that he wanted to keep in that moment, that did lead to the submission. And once again, it doesn't look like it really hurt or helped someone too much. Pretty much just looked like the better grappler won in this match. Now we get to the final match of Craig Jones versus Phil Rowe, which we just broke down, but now we are starting to see the evolution of the pit for grappling. And it's the first time that someone has used the pit wall to help them get a submission, which adds a very exciting dynamic to the match. And it doesn't look like it's intrusive where people are like, oh my god, that was BS because of the stage. Instead, people were super impressed by it. People loved it. A lot of people in the comments are saying that the pit is the way to go when it comes to grappling matches. And I completely agree with this sentiment. I mean, the fact that there are no ref interruptions, the fact that you cannot go out of bounds, and the action continues, as weird as it sounds, Karate Combat has created what we have seen as the best stage for submission grappling that we've ever seen so far. And that feels very weird to say, but honestly, I'm curious to see what you guys think about the pit. Am I overreacting? Is this not the best grappling stage that we've seen so far? Please let me know in the comments if you disagree or if you agree. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the breakdown, and I'll see you in the next video.